over half the state blanketed in trees, it's probably more than likely that you live or play or work near a forest. But have you ever wondered how Pennsylvania's forests work for you? Come with me, we're going to journey through Penn's woods and meet with some of the experts who can tell you more about it. Tom Richard from Penn State University, Professor Emeritus, correct?
That's right.
So what exactly were you a professor of at Penn State?
I've been a professor of agricultural and biological engineering at Penn State since 2004.
Okay. So what all does that encompass?
Well, I've been working on trying to figure out how to put together sustainable agricultural systems and forest systems with the economy and to help to encourage a bio-based economy. Okay. And that's something that we've been doing as humans for thousands of years, but the sustainability piece of it needs some work still. And in the last few years, I've been really focusing on carbon and how do we actually use agriculture and forestry to capture more carbon from the atmosphere and help to address the climate challenge.
Okay. So where in the woods are we right now?
Well, we're at one of the Penn State research farms, which is called Rock Springs. It's a little bit outside of State College. And it's several thousand acres of farmland and forest land that the university uses for research projects.
And so have you done research here?
I have. A number of different projects on several different sites.
So you were talking about sustainability and kind of that concept. Could you go into a little bit more detail about what you've been working on in terms of the forest aspect with that?
Sure. Well, it's actually interesting to know that the word sustainability in its first application was in forests in Germany a little over 300 years ago.
Oh.
When they were actually logging the forest at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. And somebody noticed that they're actually cutting down trees faster than they're growing them. And the idea was, well, we should rethink that a little bit because we hope that civilization lasts for a long, long time and we're going to need these trees later.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that really started the whole idea of forest management was around sustainability. And the word for sustainability in German, Nachhaltigkeit, is still, it's about the future and how do we actually preserve things for that purpose. It also means we need to use them. And in the case of forests and agriculture, we need wood products, we need food, and we need these ecosystems to store carbon. And we, I think, all understand that we've got too much carbon in the atmosphere right now. It's heating up the planet, it's causing lots of extreme weather, and here in Pennsylvania, increased flooding and sometimes summer droughts, and those things are not good. So we are trying to figure out how do we actually manage what's really the most effective way to capture carbon from the atmosphere that's ever been invented, although I don't know we can quite say that. So photosynthesis. Photosynthesis takes CO2 out of the atmosphere and it makes carbon in plants. It produces these byproducts, waste materials, called oxygen, which is really handy for people.
Yeah.
Clean water, healthy soil.
Yeah.
And food and wood products and other things that we can use with the carbon. So that's kind of a miracle. It's a 3.5 billion year old miracle. And one of the most amazing things about it is it takes 10 times more CO2 out of the atmosphere every year than all fossil fuel emissions combined.
Wow.
So plants are our friend in solving the climate challenge.
Yeah.
But we have to understand how to manage them accurately and effectively.
Yeah. So what you're saying, it sounds like we want the trees to stay in the forest. So if we're cutting them down for wood products, like, wouldn't that be a bad thing with storing carbon?
Well, trees in the forest do a pretty good job of storing carbon, but they don't capture carbon as effectively as they age.
Okay.
So their growth rate slows down, they die, they're more susceptible to pests and diseases. And actually, a totally mature old growth forest is in steady state with respect to carbon. It's only capturing as much carbon as it's losing. So what we want to do is keep our forests in a young, rapidly growing state. And the way to do that is to harvest them regularly, to take some of that carbon out of the forest and to put it in especially long-lived wood products. Things like wood in construction, heirloom furniture, cabinetry, flooring, the kinds of things that are going to be around for a long, long time.
So what do you kind of see or hope for as like the future of this? Like, how do you think we can use this in the future to kind of come up with solutions to the climate change issues?
Well, one of the really great things about wood is we're now actually able to engineer it so it can substitute for things that have a very high fossil carbon footprint. So for example, two of our most fossil energy intensive or carbon intensive materials are concrete and steel.
Okay.
Both of them actually require a lot of heat to make, but they also emit carbon as part of their chemistry. So concrete is made from, the cement is made from limestone, calcium carbonate. It goes through an oven kiln process, and it throws off tons of CO2 to the atmosphere just to make the cement. And in steel, well, here in Pennsylvania, we know a lot about that. You use coke as part of the chemistry to make high carbon steel. And that process also throws off a whole lot of carbon. So even if we use totally renewable energy for the heat in concrete and steel, it will still be carbon intensive.
Right.
We now know how to engineer wood materials, so we can substitute for concrete and steel. Not just in things that we're used to, but tall buildings, mass timber construction. We can build 20-story and taller buildings now with wood as the structural material.
Yeah.
And that will not only substitute for carbon from concrete and steel, but it'll store the carbon from those forests for more than 100 years.
Wow, that's awesome. So kind of the hope is to use wood as sort of a resource where it hasn't been used traditionally to sort of combat those different other types of materials that are actually releasing more carbon than what they're capturing.
New uses are really important, but we also have to double down on the traditional uses. Like, it's a little bit crazy that we're now using non-wood for all kinds of things that we could use wood for. Flooring, furniture, things like that that are made out of plastics or vinyls or other fossil oil. We need to be actually remarketing those materials, those wood-based alternatives, as the sustainable option.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great vision for the future. So wood is good.
Wood is good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today and giving us more information about how our forests can actually kind of impact the future and help solve some problems for us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Amanda.